So for a period of about 8 years over my academic career, I was averaging A+ over all my exams. Now this is not because I'm some kind of genius or something, because before those 8 years, I was a literal dumbass. I was in the bottom set in all my classes. I was failing pretty much all my exams. But what I did was one day, I was like, okay, I'm done. Time for my academic comeback. And I started taking studying seriously. I did hundreds of hours of research on like study skills, productivity, focus, read a bunch of books, did a bunch of research, and I tried a ton of things over all my exams. I've got my pre-exam ritual down, and I'm gonna share that with you in this video in 5 minutes. So the first thing I wanna say is I'm gonna answer the age-old question. Should you study on the day of the exam? And I'm gonna explain it to you in an interesting way. So the most important thing to do well in your exam that you need is focus. Your ability to focus, your ability to be alert and focused on the material. But let me explain to you focus in a way that you might never have heard. So focus is kind of like a stamina bar in a video game. So you know how in a video game like Skyrim, you have this stamina bar, right? And if your character runs in the game, your stamina bar slowly runs out. And the more you run, the more it runs out, and the slower you run until your stamina bar dies, and then you can't run anymore, you can only walk, right? Focus is exactly like this. Because focus is a finite but renewable resource. So here's what happens. On the day of the exam, you wake up with a maximum focus bar, 100% focus. And what do most students do? Most students, they'll wake up with 100% focus, they'll study for an hour, okay, their focus goes down. They'll scroll on their phone for an hour, okay, their focus goes down. They'll study for another hour, okay, their focus goes down. Then they rock up to the exam with almost no focus left in their focus bar. So with this understanding of focus, you can understand why studying on the day of the exam will affect your performance in the exam. Now the question is, how much can we deplete our focus till it starts to affect us in the exam? Do we have to do zero study, or can we at least sneak in a bit of study? Well, I'll tell you the answer. So according to science, on average, the maximum amount of time we can focus per day at maximum capacity is about 4 hours. So our focus bar is about 4 hours long. So what this means is if your exam is like 2-3 hours long, then you can only really study for 1 hour till it starts to affect your performance in the exam. So if you really want to, then okay, go ahead, study for like 1 hour in the morning. But I'm gonna tell you why I think it's ideal to honestly study 0 hours. If you study in the morning, there's gonna be some stress involved in it because you're studying last minute and you're not gonna learn as efficiently with all that stress. And here's the thing, it's honestly not worth it because you've probably spent 30, 40, 50 hours studying this subject, being with this subject. And why do you think an extra hour is gonna help you? Because the reality is, in that hour, you might be able to get a couple things into your short-term memory, but it's really not enough time for you to truly deeply understand concepts and get a huge edge. So maximum, maybe you'll get an extra point or two in the exam. So do an hour of study in the morning if you want, but there is one thing you need to know. When you defocus, when you stop focusing, your focus bar will replenish a little bit. So do not study right before your exam because you need to give your focus bar time to replenish itself. So for at least the hour before your exam, you should be doing defocus activities that don't require you to focus. So don't go on your phone, don't go on Netflix because these things will deplete your focus bar. But what do most students do? Most students are outside the exam hall studying. So you need to be that guy who's outside the exam hall watching everyone studying on their notes and just being that chill guy standing there not even studying. You're there oh bro, these guys don't know that they're messing up their focus, bro. So in a second, I'll give you some power-ups that you can use to boost your focus bar. But first, I want to tell you the biggest thing that's actually tanking your focus bar that you might not even realize. It's your diet. It's what you eat on the day of the exam. So here's the thing. When you eat a meal, when you eat anything, your body goes into what's called rest and digest. So what rest and digest is it's your body will take blood away from your brain and put it towards your gut for digestion. Now this is bad because we want blood in our brain for our exam, right? So when your body goes into rest and digest after you eat a meal, you'll start to feel slow, you'll start to feel lazy. Maybe you've noticed this after you ate a meal. So what does this mean? Does this mean we shouldn't eat at all on the day of the exam? Not exactly, for 2 reasons. One, you're gonna be thinking about food the whole time during the exam. And two, food can actually be good because it'll feed your neurons, which you need during the exam. But let me give you 2 tips that you need to implement to make sure food doesn't tank your focus. So the first tip is keep your meals relatively small. The bigger the meal you eat, the more blood is going to be redirected to your gut and taken away and make you tired. So keep your meals relatively small, especially approaching the exam time. And the second tip, in my opinion, this is the biggest thing. You need to avoid carbohydrates at all costs. Because in 2/3 of people, carbohydrates tank their energy. This is scientifically proven. So, pasta, rice, sugar, all these things, avoid them at all costs before your exam because they are going to tank your focus, at least in 2/3 of people. Now, after your exam, go wild, have your bowl of rice, have your toast sandwich, have whatever you want. But before your exam, please keep your meals relatively small and avoid carbohydrates. Now, I'm going to quickly give you a couple power-ups that you can use to actually boost your focus before the exam. So the first one is caffeine or coffee. So caffeine will actually improve your adrenaline and improve your dopamine receptors in your brain, which will actually boost your focus. So don't have too much caffeine to the point where you're like literally shaking and you can't write, you can't answer the questions. But caffeine can be a good way to boost your focus. If you've never had caffeine before, do not experiment with caffeine on the day of the exam. And especially don't experiment with caffeine the night before because it will keep you awake. I made that mistake in one of the most important physics exams of my entire life. I had caffeine the night before and I could not sleep that night. I had 2 hours of sleep. Okay, and the second power up I want to give you is, this is an interesting one, take a cold shower. So a cold shower will actually boost your adrenaline and boost your dopamine, which will improve your focus. So if you take a quick 1 to 2 minute cold shower before you head to the exam, for about 4 hours, it will actually improve your focus. So that's it. If you want a more detailed video on this protocol, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, go watch this video now, another exam video. See you later.